the Panthers land Ejiro Evero as their new defensive coordinator. He had just wiggled his way out of Denver. It felt like Denver was maybe going to take some time, make some decisions, bird in the hand, two in the bush with Sean Payton. They let him go. The Vikings wanted him. He lands in Carolina. How surprised were you, Charean, that Evero ends up right away with Frank Reich?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that. And Mike, the fact that they're changing right away from the 4-3 to the 3-4, we saw that a disaster with the Vikings this past season.
Yeah, right.
And I just remember when Bill Parcells came into Dallas, as you know, Chris, was a 3-4 guy. He had Mike Zimmer. He didn't have the personnel for a 4-3 defense, and he waited. He waited until he got the personnel, he got the DeMarcus Wares and those guys to make it work in Dallas. That's what I worry about.
I hear you. That's a big adjustment. I mean, we've talked about that a lot, whether you're Vikings or even, hey, another team that went through that this year with the Raiders. Same type of thing. Raiders were a 4-3 based football team. They bring in Patrick Graham. He's from New England. They want to do that. It's a totally different skill set with the front seven players, to your point, Charean. So no doubt about that.
Here's what I would say is that Ejiro Evero was on the Rams staff in 2017 when they also adjusted from the 4-3 under Greg Williams to the 3-4 with Wade Phillips. So he has that experience, and that really was actually a more successful shift than it could have been. But the thing that kind of surprised me about the whole thing is that Evero and Kevin O'Connell were on the same Rams staff too.
That me too. I'm with you there.
So the fact that he just goes directly to the Carolina Panthers instead of maybe looking at that, or if Raheem Morris got a new job, and then maybe he would have gone back to the Rams. So that was a kind of surprising element to me.
Yeah, my son was very dismayed that the Vikings lost a showdown with the Panthers for Ejiro Evero. Well, very upset.
The connection you make, I think, is real with the Kevin O'Connell. I was kind of thinking, that makes a lot of sense. They know each other. I was with EJ in Tampa in my later years. I mean, he's a great coach. Now, you talked about the Rams, the stuff he did there. The Broncos, how well they're set up a defense. I was like, well, Sean Payton's clearly going to want to keep EJ Evero for sure. Why wouldn't he? I don't know what happened there. The one thing I'll say, and I think we saw this at the end of the year, Carolina's defense is super talented. When you play and they got the right scheme and things there, they got some guys where I think he probably looked at it and went, okay, we're not 3-4 base, but we draft a guy here and there. I like everything else this defense has to offer. So that's where I could see certainly being a successful thing.
That's how I tried to talk my son off of that issue yesterday. It's like, look,
there's more work in Minnesota.
Between two defenses. Minnesota defense, the best players are old. We don't know anything about the young players.
Exactly.
It was a disastrous shift. And you go to Carolina, and you're running the defense, and if things go well, you get more opportunities.
That's
to be a head coach.
And expectations are lower. I think that's a real thing too.
And the division's wide open. Now, in Minnesota, NFC North, it's not as they're not great there either. But the NFC South seems to be wide open for the Panthers. With Reich, get the right quarterback, get the right defensive coordinator. They got great players, and off they go. And Evero ends up being a head coach as soon as next year.
And the obvious point for Carolina is finding the quarterback, and if they can do that, they do have the defense with Brian Burns and Jeremy Chin and all those guys to build around on that defensive unit. But they got to get the quarterback right.
Yeah, they got to get the quarterback right. O-line kind of turned the corner. We saw how they ran the ball at the end of the year. I think if DJ Moore was on a more notable team, we'd go, he's one of the best receivers in football, right? And they got a lot of things that, to me, I thought they would be the Jacksonville of this year in a lot of ways, the team that kind of came out of nowhere to be in the playoff conversation. I've kind of been saying that for 2 years with the Panthers, but I think this is a good start. Frank Reich, I am a big fan of Frank Reich. One, to your point, I think he's a little bit of a quarterback whisperer. I know that, and I know some people are going to go, well, wait, the Colts. Okay, Colts had a lot of crazy circumstances, and they survived them in a lot of ways, I could argue, let alone – I don't know if necessarily all the guys that were there were his first choice, too. That's the other thing that I've kind of been made aware of through people connected to that organization. So, there's a lot of things at play there. But between E.J. Evero and Frank Reich, they certainly got a different scheme, and they're going to be creative and tough to deal with.
Safe to say he's not bringing Carson Wentz. I think
that's not happening. They can,
I wouldn't stand on the table for that guy again.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.